Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're going to do something, well, kind of different. We are going to take one single, seemingly straightforward photograph and completely deconstruct it. Together we're going to uncover this hidden masterpiece of geometry, physics, and brilliant visual staging packed entirely inside just one frame. You might think you're just looking at a simple kitchen prep scene, but by the end of this explainer, I promise you'll see a complex engine of creation.
Okay, let's dive into this. At first glance, what are we actually looking at here? What is our sole subject for today? It's a bright red mechanical kitchen gadget processing a totally common, everyday potato. Basically, it's slicing it into a curly fry. It looks like a simple product shot, right? But look a little closer. This image is an absolute masterclass in contrasting elements, both visually and physically. We've got solid metal against organic matter, stillness versus implied motion, and hardcore engineering meeting culinary art.
So here's our investigative roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the anatomy of the slicer, then the geometry of the helix. Third, setting the culinary scene. And finally, the beauty of mechanical advantage. Let's start with part 1, anatomy of the slicer, the engine of creation. If we focus intensely on the left side of the machine, we can actually play detective and deduce the physical function of these components based purely on what we can see. First off, notice that long silver-threaded rod across the top? That clearly controls the forward movement and the slice thickness. Then, over on the far left, there's a red hand crank. This is the power source, right? It's where a human hand provides the rotational torque to drive the whole system. And finally, look at the bottom. We see a black suction base with a distinct lever. The presence of that little black lever implies a vacuum mechanism. Why? Well, because the machine needs serious anchoring to handle the intense physical torque generated by cranking a solid potato into a sharp blade. Guiding your eyes a bit closer to the action now, look directly at the wing nut near the stationary blade and the pronged holder gripping the potato. You can really see the heavy, thick construction of that red metal chassis. There is absolutely no flex here. This machine is built to be a rigid, immovable object. Precisely so, the organic matter it's processing literally has no choice but to yield to the blade. It's a perfect example of how industrial rigidity enables perfect culinary precision. Moving on to part 2, the geometry of the helix, solid to spring. Let's shift our focus completely away from the red engine for a second and look at that dramatic output. What we're witnessing here is the birth of a geometric marvel, a helix. Now, a helix is a three-dimensional curve, kind of like a spring or a corkscrew. This machine is taking a dense, solid, heavy tuber, a potato, and through the mechanics of a continuous rotational cut, it completely transforms its physical properties. It changes it from a rigid block into a flexible, continuous, spring-like ribbon. It's just a stunning mathematical metamorphosis happening right there on a kitchen table. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer physical tension captured in the photograph. Just look at that long, unbroken potato coil hanging dynamically in midair. The photographer perfectly timed the shot to capture the coils suspended, literally fighting gravity. It creates this mesmerizing leading line that pulls your eye up and completely out of the frame, giving what is essentially a static image this tremendous sense of life and dynamic movement. Which brings us to part 3, setting the culinary scene, visual contrasts. Stepping back to look at the macro composition, the success of this aesthetic staging relies heavily on visual opposites. On one hand, you've got the rigid, bold red industrial metal of the machine. It feels hard, heavy, and very manufactured. But on the other hand, you have the organic, flexible, pale yellow nature of the potato. By pitting these distinctly opposite elements against each other, the photographer creates instant visual intrigue. The hard engineering highlights the softness of the food, and the organic curves of the food highlight the sharp angles of the engineering. Check out the background and the foreground now. Notice the contrasting teal wall behind the setup, and those neatly arranged light blue and gray resting trays down in front. Those aren't just random choices. Those trays are purposefully placed to hold the finished spirals, acting as a visual after to the machine's before. It creates a complete narrative loop of the whole process in just a single glance. Let's actually break down the specific strategic lifestyle staging elements here because they elevate this from a boring, clinical product shot into a highly appealing culinary scene. The wooden table grounds the image, giving us that warm, homey vibe. That green palm plant peeking in on the left, that's just natural freshness. The blue and gray trays perfectly utilize color theory, offering a cool contrast that makes the warm yellow of the potato just pop. And of course, that floating spiral adds that vital dynamic action. Every single prop in the shot is working incredibly hard to sell you a feeling. And our final section, Part 4, the beauty of mechanical advantage, process in motion. Let's synthesize everything we've observed so far and mentally animate this static image. Relying purely on deductive reasoning, let's walk through how this machine logically operates. Step 1. You absolutely must engage that black lever to secure the suction base to the table, fighting the future torque. Step 2. You mount the raw potatoes securely onto those metal prongs. Step 3. You turn the red crank, which simultaneously spins the potato and pushes it forward through the stationary cutting blade. We don't even need a video to see the motion, right? The mechanics are just perfectly mapped out for us in the design. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the coolest hidden details in the photo. Look really closely at that silver-threaded rod again. The pitch, which is the distance between the threads on that rod, mathematically dictates the exact uniform thickness of the spiral cut. For every one full rotation of the crank, the potato is pushed forward by precisely the width of one thread. It is literal math controlling food preparation. It guarantees that every single loop of that helix is completely 100% identical. So, what does this all mean? The crucial point we want you to take away from this explainer is that visual literacy is a massively powerful tool. By simply looking closely and asking why, a completely ordinary picture of a kitchen gadget transforms into a fascinating deconstruction of mechanical engineering, geometric transformation, and deliberate artistic staging. There is just so much information packed into the things we casually scroll past every single day. So, let's leave you with a thought to ponder. The world around us is deeply, deeply intentional. Next time you look at a simple, everyday object, whether it's a tool in your kitchen, a pen on your desk, or even just a hinge on a door, what hidden mechanics, geometry, and design choices might you discover if you really take the time to look? Thank you so much for joining me on this visual investigation, and I'll catch you on the